Alrighty, here we go. Here it is once again with Bitcoin to start this one off. I'm actually going to come back into the Crown Trading application a little bit later. As always, though, most of the pertinent information is here, and some of the most important information for the general analysis to come will be here as well. But I want to really create sort of a dualistic analysis here in the sense that there's a significant difference between what's going on in the short-term timeframes and then, of course, the macro timeframes, meaning the monthly. And be seen as the monthly will be closing for January later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, or 00 UTC. There's much to prepare for, as that is really going to set in the bias for the next, couple of months to come. So with that in mind, we'll start with the short-term timeframes here. Realistically, very little's changed. I'm going to be working off of CME's chart to start this one off, simply because on Monday, it just, it's just a better chart, a more clean and clear chart to be working off of. And it's the same thing as before. Look, below $39,000, which is actually more like 38,900, let's say on CME on a 4-hour closure, still have no range resolution to the upside. Yes, do I think that there is several things that suggest that Bitcoin it does give a move somewhere up around there and continue on with the short-term rally? Probably yes, into early February, that is. But ultimately, until this criteria is validated right here, there's no trade to be made, or no no validated conditions for continuation to be had just yet. Although it is rather close right there, as you can see. But a slew of rejections at just under the $39,000 level, of course, does say that it is relevant to be cautious right now. On top of that, do we have hidden bearish divergence building right here? We do actually on the 4-hour RSI, which will be confirmed it will be confirmed with any sort of a closure below about 36,500. That likely wouldn't be a death sentence. However, it would very likely imply a retest back down to the short-term time frame range lows. In that case, it's going to be right around about 34,500. That is kind of the line in the sand for myself, and I imagine many of the people out there as well, if you've been following on to this analysis, or just if you're going off of general TA principles right here, that would be the line in the sand for essentially looking at this as a failed attempt for yet again another low with targets back down somewhere between about $29,000 to $30,000, essentially in the midst of the long-term macro blue box right here, coming off of the summer lows and of course January of last year lows as well. So that would imply a move somewhere back down around there yet again. Again, I do think it's a little more likely that Bitcoin bounces kind of to start off February in this case. The question is, how far do we get down on this next move if that does get confirmed to begin with? So first and foremost, that is not confirmed right now. If the confirmation conditions are, well, essentially validated, then yes, I would be looking for a move somewhere down around that region, whether it be between about 35.5 or perhaps all the way down to 34,500. Either one of those is fair game, but ultimately, as long as Bitcoin is closing above specifically 34,500, I do look at that as, still a basing area and more likely to bounce from that region. Anyways, with that in mind, do we see anything that is significantly interesting over here? I mean, we do see that 4-hour jewel is still showing upside. However, it is weakening right there, as you can see, and I imagine it's going to lose its signal relatively soon, especially with seeing the volatility actually crater right here as well. This is not a strong signal. This is a corrective signal is what it is to the upside. And right now we found another lower high right around the 55. So that would be a good counterpoint to what I'm saying. However, if we do get the validation conditions above, again, about 38,900 is what I'm trying to say, I would be looking for, a pretty nice move back up somewhere between about 41.5 to about $43,000. I'll make a nice little blue box right here for the targeted region. Something like this is what I'd be looking for, essentially in line with the full hour 200 moving averages. You do see it kind of crawl its way down, which Bitcoin has been essentially allergic to ever since it lost it back and over here in November, obviously. So until then, I really have the same thing to say about this, in the sense that, look, as long as Bitcoin's putting in lower highs on the daily, it's just it's all upside. All talking about upside is hopium. We can look for indicators and whatnot that do support that there's a chance for that, but at the end of the day, until that condition is met, until at minimum we even have a range resolution to the upside, there's just no it's just hopium. But that is the relevance of this region right here. Again, the low actually it's more like mid $40,000 territory, which is your last lower high on Bitcoin on the daily, specifically right here, just under $44,000 on a closing basis. On a wick basis, more like a little bit over 44,000 bucks right there. So as long as Bitcoin's below there on a daily, still the same shit, still just another major massive downtrend. I do want to follow up on this signal as well on the 5-day, and then we'll get on to the very higher term timeframes. But basically, the 5-day stochastic momentum signal was actually validated upon closure last night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, in order to maintain this, Bitcoin needs to continue to close above, guess where? 34,600. So right around the bottom side pivot on this price action. That also is to say that as long as Bitcoin, is above there, again, we do expect, or at least I do expect Bitcoin to continue on with the general bounce party here into probably middle of February. This is a 5-day chart after all, so it's not going to, you don't expect the results today. You expect the results within the next, probably like few weeks to be a little more realistic. The last 4 times that we've seen a signal like this, in fact, the only 4 times that we've seen a signal like this where it's come down specifically to this green horizontal bar, have been some pretty impressive bounces in the past. In fact, not just bounces, but macro cycle lows. We're talking about this one over here from December 2018. Now, keep in mind, Bitcoin did, hang around those lows for a while. It wasn't just like a green dildo party to the upside exactly from that moment. In fact, even to just break above your 5-day range highs, or your daily range highs in this case, took 2.5 months from that point. Before that, we did see another macro cycle low over here in January 2015, as you can see. And again, even from that point, from January 2015, in order for it to like really get some momentum to the upside, took until October. That was nearly a fucking year right there. And you can see that things did come back down and test around that prior low, in fact, in the interim. And then the time before that, which wasn't too far before that, was of course in October on essentially this bull trap right here. This was a pretty impressive move from bottom to top, about a 70% move right there. So even if Bitcoin does play out something relatively similar, like, could still be very much bearish, of which we'll follow up on the conditions for a macro reversal specifically after this. But until that's had, that is still kind of the general long-term view of this. And more importantly, or not more importantly, but going back to the genesis over here in October 2011, you can see that this did get the macro cycle low here as well. And again, from that point to actual momentum being gained to the upside for a major move took about 3 months, or basically 3 months to December, January of that year. And even then, I mean, it was another like quarter and a half of just sideways right here before things really started to get going. So I do think that this market is kind of going to be relatively dull at best for a while. You probably feel that yourself. I definitely see it on YouTube. I definitely feel that way as well, in the sense that, the people who are paying attention to this market right now are like the true believers, people who are, or maybe becoming true believers, or maybe they're starting to believe in the tech as well. Maybe, that's right. We're all in it for the tech. But my point is that, we're probably not looking at anything major to the upside anytime relatively soon. That being at best, maybe into, Q3 of this year. And that's like best case scenario in my opinion, as you can see from the past iterations of this signal. And even then, if you do have a more immediate immediate response, that was actually a lot more reminiscent of what you saw back over here on the bull trap. So do be aware of that. Do be aware that for right now, Bitcoin is still a little more in limbo, and that condition must be continued to validate, meaning that no closures below that region, even on a daily, probably does it as well. To be quite frank, for completely destroying price action back down to $29,000 to $30,000 base. Until then, still a little more likely to bounce. Short-term timeframes, can they ebb and flow here? Absolutely yes. In fact, they very likely will. And let's actually go into our short-term timeframe stochastic momentum, of which we can go reference over here on the 4-hour. 4-hour stochastic momentum is still to the upside as long as Bitcoin's closing above 36,500. I'm specifically using CME right now. Again, the CME signals on specifically Monday and Tuesday do have a higher efficacy and hit rate. Bi-hourly is showing what? Is going to be showing actually downside momentum will cross back onto the upside above 38, and hourly is going to be showing what over here is going to be showing, I don't know because it's not loading, will flip back around about 37,500 or so. So we do see kind of lower term timeframes in limbo with each other, which likely aligns with sideways price action. Medium and higher term timeframes, of which we can reference the 12-hour. A little bit more concerning. 36,250 will turn this one back up. So technically speaking, you are significantly above there right now, and this one will be closing in about 4 hours 45 minutes. So if that were to get validated to the downside, probably to come back down and test around range lows, to be fair. But for right now, that one is I suppose safe. Daily, same thing here too. 35,800, the magical number, to almost work its way out of the bearish control zone. I see some WAGMEs from Willis World. Yes, we all might even make it. We all almost make it. Elsa says no. She looks at her portfolio in the morning. She goes, it's not good. It's not good. It's like every time she looks at it, it's not good. I don't like it. It's not good. It's like, I'm out. I quit. Buy daily is actually showing downside momentum below about $38,000, but and that actually is close tonight. So that would be a little bit more concerning as well. And then of course, we've already seen the 5-day and the weekly, of which the weekly on spot and CME has updated significantly now, will be turning up above about 41,700. So you can see the relevance of even breaking the medium-term time frame range highs here at about just under $39,000. That will very likely start to satisfy the conditions, not just for the the 5-day, but also the weekly as well, allowing for a bounce likely a lot higher. That brings into the question where those bounce targets be, and more importantly, where would the macro trend really reverse here, and it's safe to be, bullish for, I guess the foreseeable future. Well, you probably know where I'm going with this if you've been watching these videos for a while now, and that would be looking at this as a bearish Fibonacci retracement right here, of which I'm going to get rid of this for right now. And of course, if Bitcoin were to get back above that region, again, that last lower high, I would be looking for extension somewhere between about $44,000 to $48,000. Again, that doesn't really do too much for price action, and to be quite frank, I would be expecting weakness within this region and to pull back. And the question is, after that pullback, and very likely coming down somewhere around $40,000, does Bitcoin put in a higher low or not? If it does, and does something like this, and then specifically gets back above this last region right here, yeah, we can start to talk about long-term bullishness. Probably still takes a long time anyways, months down the road. I think at best, around later this year. And worst case scenario would be something like this, where it bounces initially, puts another lower high, and then breaks specifically below $40,000. If you see something like that, very, 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 very likely going to revisit somewhere between about $29,000 to $30,000. This blue box right here. Do things bounce yet again off that region? Perhaps yes. Could be like 6,000 in 2018, but ultimately, 25,000 would still be on the board based off of the monthly 55, or I guess not even on this one, but based off the monthly 55 right here. Keep in mind, however, on the higher term timeframes like the monthly, we are putting a nice bounce off the 21, which is going to be typically a take profit region for bearish divergence like you see right here. So with that in mind, short term, are things more likely to bounce? Probably yes. Maybe after a very, very short-term time from continuation of this pullback, which we would say was likely yesterday, but I think we've kind of seen, the easy portion of that move already, to be fair. And then the question is, coming into maybe like end of February or March, do we see that, catastrophic move for BULAs right there? So that's essentially what the preparation is for right now. And now I want to bring you over to the monthly, because we are going to be closing the monthly, well, today. Actually, before we do that, let's go over here into the Crown Trading application. Of course, you can find all of this data for free in the link in the description below. And the global open interest right now is still coming off the lows for this current little segment. And you can see that typically when you do see a nice move down like this based off the open interest, and you do see a little bit of accumulation of positions in a region like this, probably going to see a move opposing that current trend. In this case, that would be a bit of a upside move. Again, just because it is an upside move does not mean that it is a long-term reversal. Those conditions are very, 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 very far away. And based off the monthly, I think that it's, it's pretty, it's very far away. We'll just say that. Long term, do I think that this does come lower? Probably yes, somewhere between the September lows and the summer lows right here. Definitely very unlikely below the summer lows. Obviously there's just more major players in this game now compared to the past, but ultimately, that would, the lower the better for a general reset. On top of that, if we go over here to our funny rates, we did see consistently negative rates for about a week and a half. Right now, they actually are slightly positive, basically zero, effectively zero, not 2%. And if we go over here into the hourly feed, it's actually technically negative, that same number right there, but more or less, again, is going to be putting a little bit more pressure on shorts, as they are paying for their positions, the very, very short term, but more or less, more on a 10-day average here. Obviously they have been paying, and Bitcoin has essentially failed to break the current lows. So you're either going to get some shorts taking profits, or the more over leveraged aggressive shorts, the less inspiring ones, we'll say, they probably get a little bit of a whiplash here. So I do think that kind of aligns with more of a move in that direction. Leverage ratio, funnily enough, has actually been coming down this whole way as well. It's still incredibly high, but has been slowly working its way down. So I'm interested to see how that one works out. I don't really have any real analysis for it, because I think that it's kind of like a difficult metric to be keeping track of, just because with all the moving parts in this market and all of the natural increase in leverage positions, just because of ETFs for futures, and of course probably a spot ETF coming at some point as well. Just more professionals involved in this market, they're going to be using derivative contracts, of course, to be managing their risk and their positions. Anyways, fear ingredient index, again, a little bit more on the bouncy side right here. I do think that it would be a little bit more confidence inducing if we didn't see it out of the extremely fearful zone just yet, whilst Bitcoin is still caught below even the medium term time frame range highs. So that, you could look at that as a bit of a divergence, to be fair, but Ultimately, that alongside NUPL, the NUPL reads right here, you know, if Bitcoin wants to bounce and Bitcoin does validate above that $39,000 level, we're very likely looking at, you know, a move into the mid 40s is essentially my analysis on there, with a few stops along the way. One of them being, or a very specific one being in between that $42,000 to $43,000 region, and then above there somewhere around $45,000 to $50,000 or so. Anyways, with that said, let's now get into the monthly analysis for this, because this is very, 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 very important. So I want to actually start it off on this chart over here, this chart representing the accumulation distribution indicator, of which you can see it has essentially been 100% perfect with getting the macro changes in direction on Bitcoin specifically, with just the slope changes on this indicator. That is not the same thing as whether it's green or red, although it, you know, more or less does work out that way for what it's worth. But in general, you know, until we lose this downside slope right here, it has not been in any way, shape, or form ever a winning trade in the past to be looking for a macro shift in direction. Even before the flu dump of 2020 right here, you will notice that we actually got a negative slope on it in February, so a month before that dump actually happened, which was rather profound, as it was one of the few indicators that, you know, technically speaking, could have told you about that. And for right now, it should also be known that anytime that you have seen a slope change, especially after being red, so when you have a negative slope like this and it's in the red zone and then it shifts to an upside slope, we've actually never seen Bitcoin even test around its prior highs until about like 4 to 6 months after that. So let me actually measure this one out. We have this iteration right here. I think this is actually, no, this is not gonna be the closest one, but this one, for example, shifted in let's say August, September. Let's just say August, you know, give it the benefit, or give it the benefit of the doubt, and we'll actually go September in this case. And how long until then did it actually test around its prior highs? I mean, it actually technically wasn't even until like just January 2017. So that's September of 2015 to January of 2017. So that's quite far away. Even on this, or especially on this one over here, I mean, this one takes way too long, but even on the most recent one where we did see it flip in May to June, that is. So let's just say from June right here to testing the prior all-time high, that wasn't until November 2020. So even that one did take like 4 or 5 months right there. And of course, we go all the way back on over here. This one also taking about 4 or 5 months as well. So, you know, first things first, we don't even have a slope change. Second thing second, we don't even have it in the red zone just yet. And third, once that actually does change, it's still probably going to be, you know, at least a few months wait, I imagine, at best case scenario, for Bitcoin to flip around. On top of that, we do have bearish divergence confirmed on the MFI for the monthly. That's not great for the long term. And if we go over here, I want to once again point out the monthly MACD signal, of which we really only have a few of them in the history of Bitcoin. To be fair, however, to the monthly MACD signal, it is a little bit further away right now, to be fair, but 40,750 would actually force or just not across the downside in this case. It wouldn't necessarily be across the upside because it's already across the upside, but obviously living below that region right now, you know, it's not just a little more likely, it's much more likely, because that's about $4,000 away from what we're currently trading at, with only just what is this, like 17 hours and 26 minutes left to go in the month. So with that in mind, we do have several iterations of this in the past, 1, 2, 3, and working on number 4 right here. Do we have another one? No, we do not actually. But ultimately, those MACD monthly crosses to the downside alongside a PMER cross to the downside of the moving average, this white moving average right here, has, you know, accurately gotten several major trend shifts, macro trend shifts to the downside. All of them testing to the green 55 over a long enough time period. Now, again, it does take some time, obviously, but looking at this right here, we have a very similar setup where Bitcoin's coming off of the white 20 simple, same thing as you saw over here, and over here, and over here as well. Spends a few months kind of oscillating around there, and then once it does kind of start to close below, well, that is the last sort of gasp for air before, well, actually working its way down to the 55, which is currently at about 22,350. Obviously, with each and every passing month, that will rise up. So I'm kind of extrapolating this over time and saying that it, you know, probably reaches somewhere around what, like $25,000 or so. So I think that's kind of like worst case scenario. But this likely does take some time. So that would be the more bearish view of this. And of course, with the monthly close and a little bit later today, well, I think that is relevant to be speaking about. On top of that, we also do see over here for the monthly stochastic momentum on both CME and spot price action is going to be crossing down, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't have about a 15,000 $15,000 rally before end of day. Hey, crazy things happen in cryptocurrency land, but I can't say that I've seen a $15,000 rally in one day, or less than one day in this case, ever in Bitcoin's history. In this case, this will be not just crossing to the downside, but also losing the bullish control zone. The last time we saw it actually lose the bullish control zone with downside momentum was back on over here, March 2018. You probably know where that is. That's the bull trap in 2018, of course. Or actually there is an iteration right here as well. It got rejected at the bullish control zone and turned down. That was November 2019, stayed all the way down through the flu dump. And then the only other times that we really have iterations for this was way back on over here. Elsa's sign in the background. It's a difficult day already. And that was in February 2014. Can't help myself, man. Anyways, with all of that said, this is a great time to plug good old Bybit. Go get wrecked on fucking Bybit. Bybit's the best place to leverage your fucking house and life away. No, just kidding. Don't do that, man. Look, when it comes to leverage exchanges, no matter which exchange that you choose to use, whether it be Bybit, FTX, Femex, and Buy Derp Alert, Derpidit exchange, all these exchanges, I strongly suggest, hey, regardless of whatever the fuck they're offering you, whether it be like a deposit bonus or free this, free that, always understand that when they're offering something free, it's to get you enticed onto it, and probably because they're going to end up, roping you in, I guess. Anyways, for the people who already have a winning strategy, who already have, a good formula to be working off of, meaning that you've backtested your strategy, you have good statistics to support it, and you probably even have some success already trading to begin with, yeah, man, well, go ahead, take advantage of it. You get a bit of a deposit bonus, free money. It makes sense. If you haven't done that, don't fucking do that, man. It's probably not going to end up too well. Trading is, I'm not going to say that trading is, I don't want to dissuade anyone from learning how to trade, because, if someone did that to me when I was first starting, that would be, well, I wouldn't have appreciated that. In fact, people did do that, and I didn't appreciate that. So, I also understand that when you're first starting off, you can be a little bit sensitive to that sort of a thing because you don't really have too much self-trust. But understand that when it comes to learning, and just from what I've noticed from myself and many others, typically takes about a year to a year and a half to kind of get to a comfortable and confident position to even just be, self-sustaining. So in that case, if that's not you, really should, I'm not going to try to be your dad or anything like that, but I would strongly caution against getting on any exchange, whether it be leverage or regular spot. You can get those same experiences. You can experiences without risking any finances, simply by just doing a paper or testnet account, of which Bybit actually does have a testnet account. So that would be a better plug, in my opinion, to kind of get them their due diligence or whatever the fuck. Just type in Bybit testnet and there you go. All right, sweet. I think that does it for the old cone right there, and let's get into the rest of it then.